For months, this shark never worked. So a lot of times we were playing against nothing. There was nothing there. Everyone else ran. No one wanted to do Jaws 2. But I was contracted to Universal, so I did the second film. But I didn't do 3 and 4 because they got worse and worse and worse and worse. And more embarrassing and more embarrassing. Well, if you consider that the shark has such a brain that he attacks my family in Martha's Vineyard and then follows my wife to Florida. The picture was incredibly popular. There was an audience made for it, and I suppose a sequel should have been done, but not a quadruple and a fifth tuple and an eighth tuple.
Air Patrol to base. I have a positive location on that sailing party. Disabled and adrift. About 3/4 of a mile west of Cable Junction. Wind and tide carrying them about due east. Is everybody all right? Is anybody hurt? Yeah. Now listen, I'm gonna give you a tow to Cable Junction. Then I'm gonna call the Coast Guard to send a cutter. Yeah. Throw me a line.
JAWGUST. Jaws 2, all August long. I'll watch a little and talk about it. Yes, JAWGUST is finally back once again. Tell at least 6 friends, you can't live without it. Jaws 2, it's not that bad. A lot better than the 3rd and 4th one. Remember that nothing will be the first, but it ain't the worst. At least there's Brody, 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 yeah! Na, 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 Jaws 2. Na, 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 JAWGUST 2. Na, 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 na.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is Tuesday, August 25th, which means it is Tuesday, August 25th. Yes, it is the 25th day of JAWGUST, the 25th day of JAWGUST 2, and for the 25th day in a row, I am here talking about 3 minutes and 40 seconds of Jaws 2. And if things sound a little different, now I don't know if they will, but if anything sounds a little different or the fading, like anything with the quality of the audio, it's my fault. It's my fault because I had issues with my Mac today at work. And I work from home. I have a Mac, but I pretty much do all my creative stuff on there too, the music and the movies and the podcast editing. And that is, I'm locked out of it because I logged out to reboot it. When I restarted it, it wasn't taking my password. So I may have to call IT tomorrow. I thought I could figure it out. That wasn't the case. So I grabbed my wife's Microsoft Surface laptop, lapbook, whatever the hell it is. And I have, I got her when she was working from home during the pandemic. And yet I think she used it like 3 times because she had a Chromebook through work too. I probably use this thing more than her. It's actually a pretty nice computer, but it's a Windows computer. It's very different as far as what I can do on it. I do have Photoshop on it because I have that through work. So I was able to, I've used this before for work. So I was able to work most of the day. And here I am. You're listening to this right now. So obviously I was able to get it out to you. I ended up downloading software called Audacity, which brings me back all the way to the beginning of my podcasting, my podcasting journey. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, my podcasting history, all the way back in 2005, I believe is when I did my first podcast. And it was I always think it was 2004. Maybe it was 2000, but I'm going to say 2005. And it's the tool, the software is called Audacity. It's the first thing that I had on my old iMac, those old first iMacs that came out before there was even GarageBand. That's what I used to make podcasts. So I'm trying to remember how to use it. It's been about 20 years, but it's fairly intuitive. So hopefully it comes out okay. And if it doesn't, now you know why. So there's a built-in excuse why this episode is probably shorter, why this episode isn't as high quality, doesn't sound as good. I'm talking on my little handheld remote, my little handheld recorder right now. And usually then I put that into GarageBand. Holy shit, Durant just hit a grand slam while I'm watching the Red Sox. Holy crap. Sorry, that happened live while I was recording, and I'm not going to edit that out. That was incredible. Okay, I don't want to get distracted. So, I'm already distracted. I don't know where I was. I know I was talking about Audacity. I know I was talking about the saving. Oh, I'm talking into my recorder. Usually then I still put that in GarageBand and can add a filter to it to make it sound a little better, to get rid of some of the background noise. None of that is happening tonight. I'm taking the audio. I'm putting it in the Audacity. I'm hitting save, and I'm getting it out to you, each and every one of you. But that's not going to stop me from talking. It's not going to stop me from talking about the next 3 minutes and 40 seconds of Jaws 2. Now, that clip I played at the beginning was something that it kind of came up the other day when I was talking with future JAWGUST guest Chris about Roy Scheider. And, as much as Jaws 2, as much as there is a obviously Jaws it's its own thing. But Jaws 2 is a big dip down. But even Jaws 3 and 4 is a bigger dip down to Jaws 2. I stand by that after watching this. Again, not a great movie. I'm not even sure if it's a good movie. I'm not sure if it's a good sequel. I don't know, but it is something. It is there are some things about it, and one of the things is that is obviously Roy Scheider. Everything goes even more to shit without Roy Scheider. But one of the things I said to Chris yesterday is thank God Scheider had some integrity. Yes, he decided, or he kind of was forced into this with a contract, but he really didn't want to do this in the first place. If he had his way, if it wasn't part of his contract, he would not be part of Jaws 2. But what if he was one of those guys that he was like, I love this. This is my thing. I'm the Jaws guy, Michael Gross on all the Tremors movies, just a guy who will be in all of them, like Vin Diesel will just be in every shitty Fast and Furious and, varying degrees of action movie. But maybe that's not even a good comparison because those movies are ridiculous to begin with. But let's just say Jaws 2, obviously Jaws 2 did well enough for Jaws 3 and so on. But what if Scheider's like, this is great, let's do it again. I want to be the shark guy. This is my legacy. I am goddamn friggin' Martin Brody. And he did come back for Jaws 3. Like, what would that be? And he did come back for Jaws 4. And I was like thinking, what could like 3 and 4, like what would they be? They'd be vastly different, obviously. You'd probably have him, as about to retire. He's back on the force, about to retire, and one of his sons is taking the job. Again, then the shark shows up. See, that's the thing. It's like 3 and 4 take it out of Amity, which again takes all the charm out of it. Anything that's in this movie is the charm of the Brodies and the fact that it's Amity, or supposed to be Amity at least. And if you take Brody out of it and Amity out of it, you've got a soulless shark movie for the sake of it being a shark movie, and that's what we'll be talking about next year. At least The Revenge has a original cast member, and it has some other recognizable faces, and it has Amity. It's complete and utter shit after that, but that's the only one I ever saw in the theater. And if I couldn't imagine what else it could be, because he's getting a little older, and by the time 3 comes around, you could say the kids are grown up. Again, cop. He's got grandkids in part 4, because Ellen had grandkids in part 4, so that would make sense. And they killed him off. They just killed him off. They were like, he had a heart attack. He really, let's just get it over with. And didn't they say, you know what? I'm getting too ahead of myself talking about Jaws: The Revenge. I still have 2 years to worry about that. But I did think, what if Scheider had no integrity and was just like, he wanted to cash checks and do this? How long would it last? Would it have gone past 4? Would there have been a 5 with Scheider? I don't know. I mean, probably. Now that it would have got to the point where he would do direct to VHS. Thank goodness they never went that route, and they just kept pumping them out. It was like, it was bad enough it got where it was, but they never. I remember for years hearing Jaws 5. I think I heard Kevin Smith talking about Jaws 5. I remember thinking or saying something about a school of sharks showing up in Jaws 5. Like, that was when I was in college in the 90s. Thank God they never did it, because it's bad enough where it did go. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was, I said how hard it is to find Jaws 2 clips. I can't believe I found one yesterday that I never heard before. But one thing I was really looking for was some sort of cable HBO Jaws 2, and I couldn't find it. And I'm looking, and you know what? There's a lot of Jaws 3 HBO stuff. And I think the reason is Jaws 3 is like 83, 84 when it was on HBO. And HBO, I think, was so much bigger by the time Jaws 3 came out and Jaws 4 comes out. Like, I think there were making ofs on HBO. That's when HBO was starting to show up in many households, where 1978, 1990, 1979, 80, there just wasn't as much of it. But it did air on HBO, and luckily I found there is a couple websites out there that show you that have all these HBO airings. Like, literally there is a Jaws Archives wiki that it must go through. It must have it for every movie. I never looked this up for the original Jaws, but Jaws 2 aired 22 times on HBO, and that seems kind of low. I think, we were talking about in a different podcast how certain movies became huge because of HBO. And Jaws 2, it seems like that wasn't the case. It first aired on July 6th, 1980, right around 4th of July. It aired multiple times in July of 1980, 8 times, and then 1 time in August, and that was it. It aired 3 times in 1981, and then it doesn't show up, at least according to this, it doesn't show up, and there was another website that pretty much corroborated. It was an 80s HBO database. This one says in 1988, it aired actually the most times. It aired 10 times. Now, 88, all 4 of them are out already, so maybe there's a lot of like marathons or, but it's funny that in 1988, I think HBO was probably humongous in 1988. So they're looking for any movie to get. But from 1981 to 1988, nothing on HBO. And I think that lack of it airing dozens of times is why I couldn't find anything on it. As far as a video, like any clip that says coming up next on HBO, like I love those old things. They're very nostalgic, and it's like people like ASMR, like like for relaxing, like audio that relaxes them. Those old HBO or old TV promos are my ASMR, whatever the hell it's called. All right, I'm not going to waste any more of your time because I hopefully can figure out how to save this and get this up to you. But here we go with the next 3 minutes and 40 seconds of Jaws 2. Today we are covering minutes 1 hour 128 to hour 1:31:40. That's an hour and 28 minutes to an hour and 31 minutes and 40 seconds. And when I say next to nothing happens, my friends, next to nothing happens. We start off with Brody on the radio with the helicopter pilot by the name of Jerry M. Baxter. That's the name of the actor. He was born in January 11th, 1943 in Tennessee in the United States, and he is an actor known for helicopter pilot in Jaws 2. He also had uncredited stunts in the movie Jaws 2. Now, okay, let's look at some trivia here on, oh my goodness gracious, a real-life helicopter pilot and flight instructor. He flew helicopters in Vietnam and for his sheriff's department before setting up a crop dusting business. It was at this time the producers of Jaws 2 wanted their shark to eat a helicopter. Oh, baby. And although they initially thought it was absurd, of course, to bring to life on the screen, they decided that perhaps it would be believable if it were a small bubble helicopter. Okay. I'm not going to read any more about that because I don't see a shark. As far as I'm concerned, this helicopter showing up to save some young teen's life. So Brody's like talking to this guy and saying, gotta get out there. He's like, I'm still on the ground. And he said, I have to change frequencies. I'll call you when I'm over there. But I'll meet you over at Francis Shoal, Harbor Air Out. And Brody's like, Francis Shoal? Where the hell's Francis Shoal? I looked it up. It doesn't exist. It was created for Jaws 2. So Brody's like sitting around realizing, I'm not doing anything. I'm all alone here. So we leave Brady and then we go to our teens in the boats for the rest of this 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Well, no, we do leave them. We don't actually leave them, but we do see one other thing, which I've already mentioned. Jerry, we've heard his voice. I'm assuming it's the same guy, and we will see him because we got the teens hanging out there. And one of them I didn't realize, Patrick, his name is Billy Van Zant. And if that last name sounds familiar, it's because his half-brother was in the show Lilyhammer. He was also in the show Sopranos, and he's also Little Steven from the E Street Band. But I figured Lilyhammer might be the thing you might know him from the most. So they're kind of sitting there, and you can see Sean Brody. I felt bad for Sean. He's like, why didn't they put me with my brother? Why? Like, they could have come around. The shark was gone. Take 5 minutes and take me, and maybe even take Marge with us, and we could go, because we're on the top of a turned over ship. Everyone else is at least tied together. We're kind of just floating here, like trying to avoid our demise. So I think it was it Brooke who said, anybody want to play charades? And Larry Vaughn's like, no. And she's like, listen, all we got to do is land at Cable Junction and wait. And hopefully I played some of this clip. I'm playing some of this clip. This might be the part. Or it isn't. I don't remember. I haven't got there yet, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. They're like, he was like, how are we going to get over there floating on this garbage? And then Sean says, what's after Cable Junction? Because they're just kind of floating there. Now, when you realize that they're still kind of in their area, they must say after Cable Junction, the Atlantic, and then Ireland. And then Andy's like, God, I'm hungry, which of course leads back to him being the fat boy in the book. Of course, they have to have him complain about the food. And then we go up into the air, into the chopper. They get to the chopper. and he has a positive location on that sailing party, which is the title of today's episode. He says it's disabled to drift. So he goes down there. The kids are all excited because there's the helicopters. They know where they are. Everyone's safe. Everyone knows. Like now that the helicopter pilot can let everyone know where they are. But first, before he does that, he wants to check on them. So he comes out with the megaphone. He's like, is everybody all right? Everybody hurt? And he says, listen, I'm going to give you a tow to Cable Junction. And then I'm going to call the Coast Guard to send a cutter. He says, throw me a line. And that's where this clip ends. So the helicopter, thank God. Now I feel a little safer because first I was like, oh, good. They're right by the lighthouse. Everything's going to be fine. But then, of course, Mike Brody goes and screws things up and says, let's keep going. I know something even better. Well, you didn't, Mike Brody. Okay. And now you're safe and everyone else is doomed. Again, if Mike gets back to shore and sees his parents, they're going to be like, "Where's Sean? Oh, we left him on the boat. We panicked. We're idiots." But at the very least, now this helicopter is there to save them. So I feel good. Chief's going to show up. He's going to hug his son, and everything's going to be fine. As far as I can tell right now, everything's going to be fine. So there was zero shark in this. Not anything, not a fin, not an underwater. We didn't even go under the water. We stayed on top of boats, and then we went really up in the sky into a whirlybird. And that's it. I'm done. I need to figure out how to save this now and try my best to make it sound as close to the other episodes as possible. Of course, if it does sound as close as possible, why did I say all this in the first place? Because I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to try my damnedest or even my darndest. But that's it for. Literally, Brody's in the boat. He doesn't know where Francis Shoal is, and it sounds like a person's name, but it's a place. And he's like, I guess I'm going to head this way. And he starts heading towards the boat. Oh, he does. Is he in the boat? I'm not even sure if we see him when the helicopter pilot calls and says, I found him. He should have called the Coast Guard right away, but instead he takes matters into his own hands, and let's just hope it works out. Hopefully we'll find out tomorrow. Now, hopefully tomorrow I'll have my computer back in action. If not, we're going to go through this all over again. But it doesn't matter because I will never stop to make sure that an episode of my podcast gets out on the day it's supposed to get out. So that's it for today. Again, not a very exciting moment at all. I just feel bad for Sean Brody. But tomorrow, hopefully, we see some excitement. I think we might be in store for some excitement. But until then, you can follow me on all the socials at Geek Mentality, except, of course, TikTok, which is Geek Mentality Mike. You can follow us on Facebook at Fans Not Experts, on YouTube at Fans Not Experts, and, of course, just go to fansnotexperts.com to check out JAWGUST and every other podcast that I've been doing over the past blah, blah, blah years. But that is it. Oh, and you can always email jawgust@fansnotexperts.com if you want to send in an email. You can do it. Or comment over on Spotify or leave a review over on Apple. I dares you. Or on YouTube. You can do that too. I dares you. The second dares you didn't quite hit. I shouldn't have done it twice. But no edits and no regrets. Or no edits, at least. All right. I will see you tomorrow, my friends. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.
Na 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 na. JAWGUST 2. Na 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 na. na na na. Jaws 2. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. JAWGUST 2.